All right, so are you ready for this one? We're diving into this story from Stillwater, Oklahoma,
Okay.
in 1968. And this is where an ordinary sandbox held, well, an extraordinary secret. This is a tale that stayed with this woman, Betsy Lancaster, her entire life.
Yeah. It's incredible how something as mundane as a sandbox can transform into something so unsettling. It's a symbol of childhood.
Yeah.
And to think that this one wasn't just a place to play, it became a point of contact with something else entirely.
It started innocently enough, though. Betsy and her friends, Billy and Joey, were spending their summer days in this sandbox that Betsy's dad built, just lost in their games and imaginations.
Right.
But then, things took a dark turn. A small, scaly hand emerged on the sand.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
That hand was the first sign that something was seriously wrong. You're talking child-sized hand with bruised, scaly skin, long nails.
Oh, yeah.
It immediately throws us out of the world of normal childhood play and into something much stranger.
You're telling me. And the kids, understandably terrified, ran away.
Right.
But of course, their curiosity got the better of them, right?
Of course.
So they started leaving things in the sandbox. And the hand would exchange them for other objects, like a black stone, a ball, even a piece of a rubber toy.
Yeah.
It was like some bizarre silent trading game.
I don't know if I'd call it a game. It's as if this entity, whatever it was trying to communicate. The question is, what was the intent?
Right.
That's a mystery we still have to unpack.
Okay, so Joey, being the adventurous one, he decided to try and figure out what was attached to this hand.
Uh-huh.
So he lowered a rope into the sand, wanted to see what he could find.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
His attempt to solve the mystery was met with resistance. The rope snapped, leaving Joey with burns on his hands.
Oh, wow.
This suggests that whatever was down there was not only powerful, but possibly intelligent.
Right. Maybe it was even a warning.
Well, that should have been enough to scare them off. But instead of backing away, the children started leaving scraps of food for this thing in the sandbox. It's almost like they were feeding a pet.
Right.
Except this pet was anything but normal.
Yeah, that act of feeding is fascinating.
Yeah.
It implies a level of acceptance, almost a twisted kind of caretaking.
Yeah.
Despite the fear,
Yeah.
But they were kids.
Right.
Maybe they were just trying to make sense of something they couldn't understand.
And then things escalated. A second hand appeared. Larger, paler, covered in cuts and blisters.
Oh my gosh.
This one was definitely not human.
Yeah, the description is truly disturbing.
Yeah.
Evoking images of decay and disease.
Yeah.
Suggesting something powerful and potentially malevolent.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. Disappearances near places like this. Places with so-called paranormal activity.
Right. They're not uncommon. Folklore is filled with stories of people vanishing into thin air, swallowed by the earth, spirited away.
Right.
It makes you wonder if locations like this somehow weaken the fabric of reality,
Yeah.
creating openings to elsewhere.
Whoa. Okay, that's a thought. And speaking of disappearances, that's exactly what happened next. Bad things started happening in the neighborhood. First, the family cat went missing.
Right.
And then both Billy and Joey vanished without a trace. Police searched. There were missing person posters everywhere, but the boys were never found.
The disappearances, while never directly linked to the sandbox,
Right.
you can't help but connect them. What if this entity in the sand had something to do with the boys vanishing?
Right.
What if the sandbox wasn't just a point of contact, but a conduit?
That's a chilling thought. And for Betsy, the silence after the boys disappeared was the worst part. It's as if the sandbox took her friends and just left this eerie emptiness.
Yeah, that silence becomes a symbol of the unknown.
Yeah.
The unanswered questions that linger long after the events of that summer.
Right.
The mystery deepens, and the fear, I imagine, becomes even more pervasive. It's like a wound that never fully heals.
Yeah. So years passed, and Betsy eventually moved away from Stillwater. But, the memory of that sandbox and what happened to her friends never really left her. As an adult, she decided to go back and, kind of face her past. It takes a lot of courage to confront something like that.
Yeah, it's like, what's striking is that even after all those years, the sandbox still had such a hold on Betsy's mind. It really speaks to the impact of childhood trauma, especially when it involves the unexplained.
Yeah.
The human mind, it doesn't easily let go of these kinds of events.
When she got back to Stillwater, she discovered that the sandbox was gone. It had been paved over, almost like someone was trying to erase what had happened there. But there was something else. Something truly unsettling.
Oh.
A single red sneaker lying in the ghostly outline of the sandbox, stained with what looked like blood.
Oh gosh, that discovery is chilling. It's a tangible link to the past.
Yeah,
A reminder of those missing boys.
right,
A symbol of the unresolved mystery that still hangs over everything.
right.
I mean, the blood stain, it adds a visceral element.
Yeah.
It suggests a violence that we could only speculate about before.
And that's when things get even more unsettling. Betsy started having these vivid nightmares about the sandbox.
Oh, wow.
Dreams of a kitchen, like filled with sand.
Oh.
Toy trucks carrying this, like, disturbing cargo.
Uh-huh.
And being dragged back to the sandbox by a skeletal hand.
God.
It's like her subconscious was trying to tell her something.
These nightmares, they could be interpreted as a form of post-traumatic stress.
Yeah,
A way for her mind to process the trauma she experienced.
right.
But they also serve as a way for us to delve deeper into Betsy's experience, into her psyche.
Right.
The imagery is potent and disturbing.
Yeah,
Sand invading the domestic space.
yeah,
Toys becoming symbols of dread.
right.
It twists the familiar into something menacing.
In her dreams, she found herself in this dark, underground cavern. And there, playing with their toys, were Billy and Joey. But they were different. Their skin was pale, their eyes hollow. They had these creepy smiles plastered on their faces. They invited her to join them, but their voices were raspy, unnatural.
That scene is perhaps the most unsettling part of this whole story. It plays on our deepest fears. The familiar made strange, the innocent corrupted. The boys, once symbols of youthful joy, are now ghostly figures, trapped in some kind of subterranean world.
Right.
And the invitation to join them and suggests a sinister intent, as if they're no longer themselves, but agents of something darker.
It's as if they're trapped there, caught between life and death. And whatever took them wants Betsy too. And the cavern itself is like a symbol, a hidden space, a place of secrets, the unknown, the realm beyond our understanding. It's a place where the rules of reality no longer apply, where the line between the living and the dead becomes blurred.
The description of the second hand, with the cuts and blisters, the elongated fingers.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like something suffering from radiation burns or exposure to some extreme conditions. Could this entity be from a place with a drastically different environment than ours?
Right.
A place that's hostile to human life?
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. That actually makes a lot of sense. So where does this leave us? We have these strange gifts, the rope-burning Joey, the disappearances, the blood-stained sneaker, and then Betsy's terrifying dreams. It's like pieces of a puzzle, but we don't have the full picture.
And that's what makes this story so compelling, so unsettling.
Yeah.
It plays on our primal fears of the unknown, of the things that might lurk just beneath the surface of our everyday world.
Right.
It makes you question what you think you know about reality.
Okay, so we've got these creepy hands, vanishing kids, seriously disturbing nightmares. Seems like this sandbox was more than just a place to play. What do you think it was about this specific location that made it so, dangerous?
That's the question, isn't it? And there's nothing in the source material that gives us any clear answers, but we can explore some possibilities. I mean, some might say it was a geological anomaly.
Right.
Some confluence of energies beneath the sandbox that created a bridge to another dimension. Others might point to the supernatural,
Yeah.
a malevolent spirit or entity attached to that location.
I'm leaning towards the supernatural explanation myself, the way Betsy describes the hands, especially that second one. It's like something out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
And those dreams, it's as if the sandbox or whatever was in it is still reaching out to her, even after all these years. Do you think it's possible that whatever was in that sandbox was actually, I don't know, feeding on something? Maybe fear or even innocence?
That's an interesting thought. There are certainly stories, theories about entities that feed on emotional energy, particularly negative emotions like fear, despair.
Yeah.
But in this case, the children initially approached the sandbox with curiosity, wonder, not fear. Perhaps it was drawn to their youthful energy, their imagination. Maybe the sandbox itself was simply a conduit, a focal point.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about Billy and Joey? Do you think they're even alive?
That's a question we can't answer. The source material leaves their fate ambiguous.
Right.
We know they disappeared, but the circumstances remain a mystery. Their presence in Betsy's dreams adds another layer of complexity.
Yeah.
Are they simply manifestations of her guilt and trauma? Or is there something more to it? Are they trapped somewhere, echoes of their former selves? It's a chilling thought.
It really is. This ordinary sandbox becomes a symbol of loss, of unanswered questions, of a darkness hiding just beneath the surface of everyday life. It makes you wonder what other mysteries might be hidden in plain sight. Could there be something extraordinary lurking beneath the ordinary in our own lives?
That's a question worth pondering. We often take our surroundings for granted, assuming that what we see is all there is. But what if there are dimensions, forces, entities that we haven't learned to perceive yet? What if the things that we dismiss as fantasy or superstition are in fact glimpses into a reality that's far more complex and mysterious than we can imagine?
What do you think, listener? Was it a portal? A malevolent entity? Or something we haven't even considered? And what about those missing boys? Are they trapped somewhere, waiting to be found? Or are they lost forever, victims of a force beyond our comprehension?
Perhaps the answers lie not in concrete evidence, but in the spaces between, in the shadows of doubt and the whispers of the unknown.
Right.
The Sandbox mystery, like all great mysteries, invites us to question, to speculate, and to confront the unsettling possibility that reality itself is far stranger than we might imagine.
And that's why we dive deep. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, sometimes the most ordinary places hold the most extraordinary secrets.